This week on Break It to Make It.
All behavior is belief driven. So our choices, our actions, our feelings, even our opportunities are connected to our belief about ourselves, our identity. And you identify as someone on a hamster wheel. You get to pause and shift that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Break It to Make It, where we meet amazing people who've thrown out the rulebook, failed forwards, or taken the road less traveled to come out on top. Does it feel like the world is too fast? That there's always more to do than there are hours in the day? Does it seem like that there is noise and chaos absolutely everywhere? The truth is that the world isn't going to slow down or get less noisy simply because you want it to. And so if the only thing that we can control is ourselves, what can we do? Today we're discussing whether we can create the future that we want by pushing pause. Today's guest helps leaders and entrepreneurs create a saner approach to success. A 5-time entrepreneur, her clients call her the hand-holding ass kicker because she matches just the right amount of push with a dose of love to bring clarity, curiosity, and a healthy sense of humor to all that she does. Please welcome back to the show, Lisa Danforth.
Thank you, Fallon. I'm super excited to be back. I appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you. And for our loyal listeners, they'll remember you, your fantastic insights and voice. And I just wanted to say, last time you were on the show, we talked about why no isn't a 4-letter word. And during our conversation, you changed my life. And so I wanted to tell you a little bit about it and do a bit of a shameless plug for anybody who missed that particular episode. As many people know, I'm a working parent. Many of our listeners are working parents. And as such, I would often find myself, also as a business owner, just working, and making that trade-off between, oh my gosh, I've got to get this proposal done, I've got to do this. And I would miss important family things like dinner. Family dinner is a big deal in my house. We eat a meal together at the table every single night that we're together, and it's a big part of our family culture. And I would feel like I was missing it. And you said something that I can't stop telling people about that just really changed my perspective. And it was, we feel like we're doing it for them, but we end up doing it to them.
Yes. Right.
And I keep telling everybody about it. And when I'm faced with these decisions, I've already started making what I think are better choices for me and my family because I hear your voice when I find myself in that situation. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do this to them. This will keep. And so thank you for that. So magical. So thank you. And now talking about today, it's this whole concept of slowing down. Slowing down is really difficult, though, when we live in this really fast-paced world. So why do so many of us struggle with this?
I think that is such an exceptional question. And there's there's 100 things that I want to say, but I'm only going to focus on a couple. And the first thing is that we are taught that to do more, be more, go, 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 go. And we come from that perspective of always having to do more. And when we come from that perspective, it can easily leave us feeling like there's just not enough, or worse, that we're not enough. Right? So we drive, we push, we grind. And again, like you had said, it's so that we can do this for our family, for ourselves, for our clients, or whatever. It's been taught to us and told to us. It's a lens through which we see and experience life. The beauty is we get to change the lens. The problem is that we don't know it's a lens that we are experiencing. We can see it in other people. Like, can't they just see a different perspective? So we get to look at life, look at situations, look at ourselves through a different lens and be able to choose. Now, the second piece that I really want to share is this beautiful quote by Brene Brown. And I've got it on my computer, believe it or not. It says, it takes courage to say yes to rest and play in a culture where when being seen excuse me, rest and play in a culture where exhaustion is seen as a status symbol. And sorry, I screwed that up, but it's just, let me repeat it. It takes courage to say yes to rest and play in a culture where exhaustion is seen as a status symbol. I love that quote by Brene Brown because it is so true. It does take courage. Who does she think she is, or who do I think I am? It's a lens.
I love that she's challenging us to buck the status quo there. And it's something that I can really relate to, this whole rise and grind culture and this construct or this belief that our value is based on our productivity, and that our productivity every single second, every minute is an opportunity to be productive and to add value through some kind of work product. But there's so much value in resting, playing, having genuine engagement with people. And that's what people will really remember.
Right, right.
When all is said and done, those interstitial moments of rest and play. So I love that quote, and thank you for sharing that with us. Speaking of quotes, Tony Schwartz, so he's best-selling author and CEO of The Energy Project. I know that you're a fan.
Yes.
He says that human beings perform best and are most productive when they alternate between periods of intense focus and intermittent renewal. Can you talk a little bit about that? Do you agree? How can we apply this to our lives?
I love his book and the whole project. It's amazing. And it is so important, right? We do need to have that intense focus. But guess what? If we don't have that intense moment where we're pausing and really pondering and looking at things, how do we know what to focus on? So we can be more effective. We can be more productive. We can be more joyful when we're clear on what we want. We can decide on how we go about getting it. Now, we all have the doing down, right? Hustle, grind, push. It's the being that truly supports us and allows us to step in to achieve the success that we seek for ourselves, for others. And may I also say, whatever success is for you, not what society deems as success. Success might be something as simple as I really want to be able to stay home and take care of my kids while they're young. Now, I say simple. It's not easy. It's a choice, and we have to have courage to be able to do that. Here's the thing. The pause, those moments of rest have every bit as much power as the push, that intense focus, because it's the pause, it's that zero-sum energy that we get to sit in. There's this beautiful synergistic energy that we get to then launch from. Think of it sort of like an archery, right? You've got your bow, you've got your arrow, you load it, or however you call it in archery, right? You pause, you step back, you take a moment, you take aim, and then you launch. Our life, everything is the same. We need to take aim. We've got the doing down. It's who do we want to be, and what do we want to achieve? What are the relationships we want to experience? Be intentional.
I love that. And also something that's resonating for me is, and when you're talking about drawing your arrow, that pause can also within itself be active. It has a potential energy there, which I think is really nice and interesting for me because, you know, as somebody who, you know, embarrassingly really subscribes to that rise and grind kind of culture, I'm definitely a mouse on the wheel. The idea that resting, renewing, isn't doing nothing.
Exactly. Right? Another. Can I jump in here really quickly? You're identifying as someone who's on the hamster wheel. You're identifying as someone, as the lens through which you see and experience your life, who you are and how you show up. We won't live inconsistent. We won't be inconsistent with who we believe ourselves to be. So if you're identifying as that, then you're going to show up as that because it's just who you are, right? You might try something different, but it's for a short period of time. We won't do anything long-term without believing that we have that capacity. The problem being is when we identify as that, It's how we're making our choices. All behavior is belief driven. So our choices, our actions, our feelings, even our opportunities are connected to our belief about ourselves, our identity. And you identify as someone on a hamster wheel. You get to pause and shift that, right? You don't want to go from 0 to 100. I'm someone who's been on a hamster wheel and I am working to get off, right?
I like that. And, it really sets that intention and just that subtle neuro-linguistic change in the way that you phrase it feels really powerful to me. That's really nice. I like that. And certainly something that I'm going to reflect on after our call today. I always got these amazing little truth bombs, and I always walk away with just things swimming in my head going, oh my gosh, I'm going to apply this to my life. We talk about the hamster wheel, or people describe it as different things, like I'm trying to keep all of the plates spinning, or I'm trying to keep all the balls in the air, is another analogy. And I heard this really beautiful extension of that I want to create space for, which is the concept that if life is a game and there are other players, but there's us, and it's about rubber balls and crystal balls, which is, imagine that every single thing that comes our way in life is a ball. Every issue, every opportunity, every challenge thrown at us minute by minute. And they're either rubber balls or they're crystal balls. There are also other team members in the game. So that means that if we don't catch all the rubber balls, it's not a big deal because they might bounce or somebody else might catch them for us. But if we don't catch the crystal balls, they'll break, right? And that's really terrifying for people, because and the problem is that the more exhausted, the more overwhelmed, or the more frustrated we are, the harder it is for us to distinguish the crystal balls from the rubber balls. And so how could we as people start driving for clarity on the separation of the balls? Because if you don't understand the difference between the rubber balls and the crystal balls, and they look alike, and we're trying to catch all of them because we know that we can't drop a crystal ball, what is your advice on driving for clarity that can help you play that game better?
Excellent question. And I'm going to start by saying not doing the same damn thing over and over and over, right? We keep thinking, well, tomorrow, when I just do one more thing, I'll be able to figure it out. But that keeps us on the hamster wheel of, there's never enough time, money, support, caffeine even. And when we come from that perspective of never enough, we can feel like never enough. So we have to keep going so that once I cross this chasm and do all of these things, I'll achieve that balance that I want. Balance is BS, right? Because when we're looking at the balance and saying, I want that, we're sitting in the sense of lack. We're not enough. We don't have enough time. And I've got to do all these things to get there. So I would implore you to get off that hamster wheel and not be looking at it from, I just want some balance. What we want is alignment. Now you've got rubber balls and you've got bowls and you've got crystal balls. The thing I just want to point out with the crystal ball is sometimes when we drop those crystal balls and they break, think of Humpty Dumpty. We get to pick the pieces back up, the ones that we want, and leave the ones that are no longer serving us. We don't want to get to that point. I'll admit I got to that point a few years ago. It was hard and it was tough. I do not recommend it, right? But I was able to choose, and it provided me the opportunity. There's always positive in something that we're doing, even in the painful moments. But the thing with the rubber and the crystal, we need to pause and look at what is most important to us, right? It's, again, we have the doing down with who we're being. So we need to figure out what we want and how we go about getting it so we can achieve the success that we want, so we can have the relationships that we want to experience, so that we can have the ease. If we don't slow down, the world is not going to slow down just because we want it to. So we need to set that boulder in the stream. Put it on your calendar. Mark it on your calendar. If your booked the next 2, 3, 4 weeks solid, great. Look at the 5th and 6th week. Put the boulder in the stream and honor it. If you want something different, you're going to have to be something different. Very, very simple, not easy, and you get to choose.
When you say boulder in the stream, I have this visual in my head of swimming upstream, getting to a nice big rock, climbing up on it, and just standing there for a while before choosing then to jump back into the racing rapids. And so that boulder in the stream, when we say things like boulder in the stream, it can feel like a big deal, right? And that visualization seems very strenuous. Like I'm thinking, oh my gosh, pulling myself out of the river. But does a pause have to be a big production? Does a pause have to be a big thing? Or can a pause be a little an impactful thing?
Great insight, great question. And that boulder in the stream is really there for things to go around it, right? So things are going around it. It doesn't have to be huge. Here's the thing. If you are, now we're working from home these days, so many of us. So let's just say you're in your guest bedroom and this is where your office is. That pause could simply be before you turn the handle to leave your office to step literally 2 steps into your home with your family. You get to pause and be intentional. Who do I want to be? What is the relationship I want to have with my kids? How do I want to show up? How do I want my kids to feel? How do I want my spouse to feel? That's incredibly important. I had one client that I was working with that her family was the most important, but she would come home at night and there'd be dishes in the sink and the kids had made a mess and she'd be almost in a rage. But when she was able to connect to what does she want her kids to feel? What is the relationship she wants to experience? We get to release those things. It's choice.
I love the idea of everything as a choice. And it really is, creating time and space. And I don't know who says it, but I think it's a very common approach. And it's something that I really subscribe to, which is you may not be able to control the way that you feel, but you have more control over the way that you behave.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had a similar situation where we're thinking, how do I want to show up today? Coming back after being sick, so stressed out, so many things to do. And the laundry list is just overwhelmingly heavy. And I'm fussing around downstairs, moving things around, thinking of this sort of stuff. My husband's like, are you all right? I go, no, I'm not all right. I'm freaking out. And he's like, well, it's very obvious. You're very heavily emoting that you are really stressed out. And I just thought, oh my gosh, such an important thing. I'm a big personality. It tends to fill the room. And in moments like that, I need a little bit of a reminder to go, oh my gosh, I think that I'm inside myself. I'm having these feelings that are unique to me, but I'm kicking up dust. It's getting all over other people. And so it's a good little moment for me to go, oh my gosh, I might be feeling this way inside, but what can I do and what can I change in terms of my behavior to spin that around so my children aren't like scurrying away? Going, oh no, here she comes.
Hide.
Hide. Don't ask for anything right now. There are no more activities happening this week. But I really like that. And are there other things, you're a very successful coach. You have a lot of clients who might be experiencing things that I think lots of our listeners could relate to. You gave a really nice piece of advice around, take that pause, reflect, think about what you want, how you would like to show up before you, say, make a transition or something. Are there other favorite tips and tricks that you have for our listeners or for your clients around adding a pause to your life that can for big impact?
And there's a lot of little things, and I keep going back to this. It can be very simple, but it's not easy, and we'll get tripped up with that. One of the things is give the gift of transparency. Whether it's, I know that I've been the one that's always picked those darn socks up off on the stairs, but it's no longer working for me. So I'm getting agitated and I want to have a conversation. Give the gift of transparency. That's one. I could go super deep into that one, but say what's going on for you. I'm feeling resentful and I love you enough to have this difficult conversation because I don't want to feel resentful. Come to some type of conversation that people can understand. And that's tied in with give yourself a timeout. I remember doing that with my kids. I'm like, I am on the verge. So I'm going to actually remove myself from the conversation. Not that you've done anything wrong. I'm just really angry. So I'm going to remove myself. So we are emulating what we want our kids to be able to do. Our kids are watching every single move that we make. So are our spouses and our clients and our friends, right? We get to remove ourselves when we're starting to feel snarky. Here's another one. Look at what is the trigger. Is it your jaw clenching, your shoulders rounding? Is your gut just doing a flip? What is the trigger? This is the key piece here in everything that we do. What is the trigger that has you choosing a habit, a reaction, a way of being, a belief that you no longer want, that's no longer serving you? When you can start taking a meta view, watch the movie, don't be in the movie. When you're in the movie, you're only seeing the moving parts in front of you. When you're watching the movie, you can see all the triggers and you can say, oh, when I didn't sleep well and I got up early and then I skipped breakfast or whatever, I'm just agitated. So I know I need to not do that. Or when I'm around so-and-so, I'm always guarded and I get agitated. Just watch the movie and see what the trigger is. And you get to choose differently. So you can create a new habit rather than the reactive one that you're always reaching for, that habit. You get to choose differently. Don't focus on removing the bad habit, the bad choice, the bad reaction. Focus on what you want differently and start implementing that. Again, you're identifying as someone, this person just always pisses me off when they're around, right? So it gives us the right to be able to be agitated. What do you want differently? So that you can then choose that better thought, choose that better action that serves you in being the person you want to be, in creating more of what you want and less of what you don't. That could be in anything, in your business. You should be prospecting and it always gets you agitated. So create a bunker for yourself. Close out of all your tabs. Let everyone know what's going on. Get your drink, get your snack, go to the bathroom, set yourself up so there's nothing that can derail you. That's your new habit rather than saying, oh, I've got to switch the laundry. Or, oh, I got to reply to this email. It's a habit. Create a trigger. Understand the trigger and create a new habit.
I love that. And you're full of amazing little, what I call mic drop moments. And the one that I want to take away from this is really watch the movie, don't be in the movie. And I think that creates time and space for a level of self-awareness that's very difficult to achieve if we're in the movie. Last night, my youngest son, it was actually his birthday, he turned 8 years old. And he had a moment of self-awareness and radical transparency that I just thought, wow, I want to be more like him. Both my husband and I said, oh my gosh, I want to be more like him. He was having difficulty transitioning to bedtime and he kept coming in. You know what it's like. The kids they just will not go to bed. Okay, it's bedtime. It's lights out.
Never had that issue, Fallon.
Never had that issue, right? And he just keeps coming in. And he's coming up with a story about how he's scared the cat's going to attack him and all this kind of stuff. And I just looked at him and I said, hey, what's really going on? And he said, I want your attention. I said, fabulous. Great. Thank you for asking for that. How about I come with you and I'll give you a little sinus massage. We'll have a cuddle and everything's like, that would be perfect. And so I went away. I spent some time with him. I was able to give him exactly what he needed. But I walked back into our bedroom afterwards and said to my husband, I go, wow. He goes, I know. What an amazing level of self-awareness for a little guy. And as a parent, it was so great for me to be able to go, oh my gosh, I know exactly what he needs. He's not being naughty. He just wants a little bit of attention. And what I take away from that is I think about me, I would be dependent on different types of relationships that I have with people, I might be too ashamed to say to somebody, I want your attention. But I'm sure many of us can think, oh my goodness, maybe I want to go, you have those little calls that you put out to people that you have relationships with, and it might be, I'm going to start gossiping about something, or I'm going to start complaining about something. But what are you hoping to achieve? What do you want? Do you want attention? And imagine how great the world would be if we felt confident and comfortable enough to, instead of dancing around it, just say, hey, I want your attention, please. Play with me, laugh with me.
I need some time with you.
Yeah.
What I really want to recognize and acknowledge is that you provided the space and the safety for your son to step forward. I think there's many of us from childhood that didn't have that safety of saying, I want your attention, right? So please remember that moving forward. You created that space and you allowed him the opportunity to say and do that. 2, I want you to recognize that all had to do with a pause. You paused and you chose differently. Your son paused and he was able to speak up. You created that. We get to do this moving forward. You get to choose.
Thank you so much for saying that. And it reminds me of that other piece. The pause creates time and space for listening, right? We got a fortune cookie the other day. Actually, it was the youngest who got it. And the fortune cookie said, I'm paraphrasing, but something along the lines that in every great conversation, listening is as important as talking. And it makes me think about, again, what you've talked about, these pausing. It creates time for us to move away necessarily from reaction, like that instant reaction, and to think and to pause, think about how we want to show up, maybe create space for questions like what are you actually in here for, son? What do you want to
right. Get out. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
We all want to be seen, heard, and understood. Every single human being. And that is often where the struggle is. We don't know how to ask. We don't know how to speak up. We haven't been given the opportunity, or if we have, we've been tapped back down. We've been dismissed. We've been whatever it may be. We all want to be seen, heard, and understood. And when we can pause and give that to ourselves, we get to pause and do it for other people as well. The connection, think about that. If we made more space for compassionate curiosity for ourselves and the people around us, whether they're family or whether they're a not so close friend, life would change.
Absolutely. I want to take us in a different direction, but instead I'm going to resist the urge.
Okay, you're going to pause and choose differently.
Pause, I'm going to choose differently. And I want to regroup around this amazing framework that you have. And it's those 3 R's. Can you talk to us a little bit, Lisa, about your framework for a good pause?
Absolutely. It's rest, reflect, and realign. We need to rest our brain. Like I said earlier, that in that rest is that zero-sum energy that we get to gain clarity and move forward with intention. We need to stop pushing, hustling, and grinding. Again, the pause has every bit as much power as the push. Then we get to take some time to reflect and really look at what is working for us, what's not working for us, what do we want more of, less of, who do we want to be, what do we want to achieve, how do I want to go about getting it. There's so much power in those questions. You want better answers, ask bigger, better questions. And then we get to realign when we have that clarity. But we won't have that clarity if we don't pause, if we don't rest. We won't have that clarity if we don't reflect what's working for me. I keep hitting my head against this wall and it doesn't seem to be moving. We get to realign our choices with who we want to be, what we want to achieve, the impact that we want to make, the income that we want to make, as well as the relationships we want to experience. It's all about relationships.
I love that nice framework, and it's rest, reflect, and realign. Now, I could spend all day with you, and we talk about this often. I never want to let you go, but we are starting to reach the end of our time today. But I want to create time and space for our final thought. And, what is that one thing that you hope that our listeners take away from today?
There's so many. I'm going to bring it down to one. Your yeses and your nos create your future. Pause and choose wisely.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for your generous spirit, your big, beautiful brain, for coming here and sharing and giving so freely of yourself to us and to everybody who is listening today. Really appreciate you taking the time to help us chart a course towards becoming more by doing less. If
I love it.
If you would like to learn more about Lisa and to start a journey towards the life that you want for yourself, go ahead and check out her Boundaries Bootcamp on her website at lisadanforth.com, and be sure to join us back here every single week where we meet more amazing people like Lisa.